A chip is a potato and a bit of oil. That's the entire recipe. It's what your local fish and chip shop cooks, it's the cheapest hot comfort food in Australia, and it should be impossible to mess up. Yet the bag sitting in your freezer carries an ingredients list longer than a pharmacy receipt. One of the biggest names in the Woolies and Coles aisle built its reputation on 3 words: potatoes, sunflower oil, and nothing else. Turn over half that brand's range today and you'll find potato wrapped in a jacket of rice flour, maize starch, and sodium acid pyrophosphate. One oven chip, the one millions reach for as the healthier choice, was already deep fried in industrial oil before reaching the freezer truck. You think you're choosing between a Canadian Titan, an Aussie staple, and a cozy home-style brand. There is no cozy kitchen. 2 of those 3 belong to the exact same Wall Street conglomerate. That is the freezer aisle right now. Chips should be the one item big food companies cannot mess up. You can't improve on a potato, so they took it apart, stripped its structure, pumped it with cheap starches, and sold you the pieces back dearer. Today we are cracking open 7 frozen chip brands on Australian supermarket shelves you should avoid, and 3 that are still, honestly, just potato. You will find out how a simple crop becomes an ultra-processed carb vehicle, how vague labels hide bad fats, and why the most shocking brand trick on the list sits right near the end. Before calling out a single label at Coles, Woolworths or ALDI, let us lay bare how the chip machine operates. In a factory, a whole potato is treated like raw sheet metal. It gets steam blasted to strip the skin, shot through water knives, and plunged into hot water to leach out natural sugars. Why? Because natural sugars brown unpredictably, ruining mass production. That process drains the natural flavor out of the spud before it ever meets oil. Once stripped, the re-engineering begins. To replace crunch lost in freezing, manufacturers spray chips with an invisible batter of modified tapioca starch, dextrin, and rice flour, a cheap veneer over soft timber. That crunch isn't a spud, it is a fried jacket of flour around a soggy core. To make it look golden in your oven, they dust it with dextrose, a refined sugar added solely to caramelize under heat and fake the tan of a deep fry. Then comes the oil trap. Every frozen oven chip was already par-fried at the factory. When costs rise, companies switch to generic vegetable oils, often palm oil loaded with saturated fat. Choice lab tests found budget chips fried in these blends carried up to 3 times the saturated fat of those in sunflower oil. Meanwhile, kids' novelty shapes are reconstituted mash glued with industrial gums like hydroxypropyl methylcellulose. Once you see these mechanics, the freezer aisle looks less like a supermarket and more like a corporate illusion. Let's count down the 7 frozen chip brands sitting on Australian supermarket shelves that you should think twice about buying. Number 7, the extra crispy chips. You know the ones, pub style, extra crunchy on the outside, fluffy on the inside. The bag promises local pub quality at home, but here is how they actually deliver it. They don't select a better potato, they coat a cheap one. Pick up a bag of McCain pub style extra crispy or Woolworths super crunch French fries and read past the word potato. You will find a hidden batter made of rice flour, maize starch, modified tapioca starch, and dextrin. On the Woolworths Super Crunch bag, potato makes up only around 85%, while the remaining 15% is a slurry of wheat flour, rice flour, and processed starches sprayed onto the chip to force a crunch. You are paying a premium price for a coat of batter, pulling the exact same trick a cheap dim sim uses to hide low-quality filling. And almost nobody clocks the sugar. They add dextrose, a pure refined sugar, to a savory bag of chips. It is not added for flavor. It is added because dextrose caramelizes under heat, so a pale, pre-cooked chip turns golden brown quickly in your oven. You aren't tasting potato quality, you are seeing a chemical tan. It is a potato dressed up in a party dress. Number 6, the budget French fries. This is the cheapest bag in the ALDI or Coles freezer, the one grabbed for a quick family dinner because it costs around $3. This is often the most engineered product in the aisle. Start with the oil. Higher quality frozen chips use sunflower or canola oil, which are low in saturated fat. Turn over a bag of budget store brand fries, and the label often hides behind the generic term vegetable oil. That broad phrase frequently means palm oil, the cheapest frying fat available, packed with saturated fat and tied to rainforest destruction. When Australian consumer advocacy group Choice lab-tested budget frozen chips, those running on generic vegetable oil blends contained up to 3 times the saturated fat of those fried in clear sunflower oil. Same shape, same freezer section, but a completely different impact on your body. Then look at where the spuds come from. Australia grows world-class potatoes, yet frozen potato imports have hit record highs, with hundreds of thousands of tons shipped in from Europe each year. Your bag carrying a vague green and gold motif can actually contain European potatoes fried overseas, frozen, and shipped across the globe to undercut local farmers. That isn't budget value. It is a race to the bottom wrapped in clever packaging. If you are already itching to inspect your own freezer stash after that, hit subscribe right now, because this breakdown gets even rougher from here. Number 5. The kid-targeted novelty shapes. This one hits parents and grandparents hardest. Potato smiles, waffles, and alphabet shapes lined up next to frozen nuggets. Here is what the bright packaging leaves out. Most of these products are not sliced potatoes. They are reconstituted potato paste. A real chip is a direct cut of a spud. A potato smile is mashed pulp, dehydrated flakes, and granules combined into a wet slurry, seasoned, stamped through a mold, and flash fried. Read the back of a bag of McCain Smiles. You get around 85% potato, backed up by dehydrated potato flakes and potato starch to bind the slurry together. Look at Birds Eye potato waffles, held together with hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose, a synthetic cellulose gum used as a binder to stop reformed mash from disintegrating in your frying pan. The most heavily processed spud in the entire supermarket is designed specifically for young children. A potato smile isn't a spud with a personality. It is factory paste glued together with food additives and pressed into a grin. Number 4. The standard oven chip. Millions of shoppers buy oven chips under the assumption that they are avoiding deep-fried food. The common belief is that oven chips simply bake instead of fry. But your oven chips were already fried in commercial oil before they ever reached the supermarket freezer. Every major brand par-fries its chips at the factory, submerging them in hot oil to cook them partially before blast freezing them. The word oven on the bag is not a manufacturing promise. It is just an instruction for how you finish cooking a chip that was already fried where you couldn't see it. Now let's be fair and accurate. An oven-baked par-fried chip still contains less total fat than a fresh chip dropped into a home deep fryer. The trick isn't that they are secretly dripping in fat. The trick is the health halo created by packaging images of fresh fields and wholesome family meals. While reading the fine print, check the serving sizes used to calculate the nutrition panel. Reassuring calorie and fat numbers are routinely based on small 100 grams to 125 grams portions. An actual dinner portion served at home is closer to 250 grams or 300 grams. Those clean, low-fat numbers on the front represent roughly half of what ends up on a real plate. Number 3. The premium gastro-style chips. Deciding to trade up from budget options leads many shoppers to the premium end of the freezer. Beer batter, steak cut, or triple-cooked chips selling for $8 to $10 a kilo. Take the gourmet triple-cooked style chips cooked in beef tallow or dripping. You are paying restaurant prices for frozen potatoes coated in rendered animal fat. More importantly, packaging rarely highlights on the front that chips cooked in beef fat are entirely unsuitable for vegetarians, vegans, or anyone keeping halal or kosher. Take a look at specialty gastro-cut ranges sold at Woolworths or Coles. 88% potato, followed by beef tallow, canola oil, rice flour, dextrin, salt, and added sugars. They are heavily coated, sugared, and fried in animal fat, all inside a rustic brown paper-style bag designed to look minimally processed. That is the premium tier trap. You pay extra believing you are escaping food engineering, but you are simply paying for industrial processing dressed up as artisanal cooking. Number 2. McCain, the market giant. McCain is the heavyweight of the Australian freezer aisle. It is the dominant frozen potato brand nationwide and a massive buyer of Australian crops, supporting local growers across Tasmania, Victoria, and South Australia. That scale deserves recognition. However, the brand built much of its reputation on a core promise of simplicity: potatoes, oil, and nothing else. Hold that simple promise up against what actually fills supermarket freezers today. While plain, basic, straight-cut lines stick to spuds and oil, walk over to popular lines like McCain's Super Crispy or pub-style chips, and that minimal recipe expands into modified starches, rice flour, spice extracts, and mineral salts. Furthermore, oil formulations across major brands shifted significantly when global supply chains fluctuated, with many lines permanently moving from pure sunflower oil to cheaper vegetable oil blends containing canola and palm derivatives. The clean 3-ingredient promise applies to the basic bottom shelf bag, while the heavily marketed flagship products carry extensive processing lists. Number 1. Bird's eye and the illusion of choice. Picture the freezer aisle as it appears to most shoppers. You see McCain, the Canadian family company, Bird's Eye, the classic brand known for fish fingers and frozen peas, and various store brands. It feels like a competitive marketplace with multiple independent options. But look closer at global food consolidation. Bird's Eye in Australia operates under Simplot, a massive multinational agricultural corporation that also manufactures and packs products for numerous other labels, including major supermarket private label lines. When you compare different brands side by side, you are often choosing between products processed in the exact same facility using the same core supply chains. The illusion of broad consumer choice is painted over a highly concentrated industry. Two different bags with different pricing and different mascots are frequently just different production runs from the same commercial processing plant. You were never really choosing between competing independent producers. You were simply choosing which brand packaging you preferred. That is the reality of the freezer aisle. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. We have walked through the engineered coatings, the industrial gums, and the misleading serving sizes. So now let's focus on the products that get it right. These are the 3 options available in Australian stores that stick to real ingredients, honest value, and zero gimmicks. First up is the most accessible clean option on commercial freezer shelves. McCain's standard straight-cut healthy choice line, widely stocked at Woolworths and Coles for roughly $5 a bag. While McCain's heavily advertised pub-style and super crispy ranges rely on complex starch batters, this basic line keeps things straightforward. The ingredients list reads 97% Australian potato, followed by canola oil and a minor trace of dextrose to assist with light browning. That is it. No wheat batter, no rice starch shell, and no thickeners. It proves that major manufacturers have the operational capacity to produce clean, simple chips when they choose to. They simply reserve the clean recipe for the plain bottom shelf bag, while pushing heavily engineered lines at higher price points. By swapping your usual Super Crunch purchase for this basic option, you instantly bypass the hidden starch coatings while spending less per kilogram. Woolworths second, for those shopping on a strict budget, look directly at the plainest store brand straight cut options on the bottom shelf at ALDI, Coles, or Woolworths. Take ALDI's Season's Pride or Bell Farms basic French fries, selling for well under $4 for a massive 1 kilogram bag. Independent testing by consumer group Choice highlighted these plain store brand lines for carrying high potato percentages, around 95% to 96% real spud, with zero artificial gums or heavy starch batters. They are par-fried simply in vegetable oil, kept minimal, and sold without flashy marketing claims. It is an ironic reality of the freezer aisle. The cheapest bag in the store is frequently the most honest one, while the premium price bags are loaded with cheap starch filler to fake an artificial crunch. If you want a quick freezer backup for busy weeknights, the plainest store brand bag offers the cleanest formula for your dollar. Choice third, and by far the best option for your health, wallet, and dinner table, skip the freezer section altogether and head straight to the fresh produce section. Grab a bag of fresh Australian potatoes, such as washed Charisma or Spud Light Spuds, or classic brushed Sebagos from Woolies, Coles, or your local greengrocer. A 2 kilogram bag costs a fraction of processed freezer chips per portion. Slice them into thick, rustic wedges or chunky hand-cut chips. Toss them in a single tablespoon of Australian extra virgin olive oil, season with sea salt, and roast them on baking paper at high heat until golden dot. Doing this at home takes about 5 minutes of active prep time, completely eliminates factory par frying, and gives you total control over the oils going into your family's bodies. When you hand-cut a fresh Australian potato, you instantly realise what the freezer aisle spent millions of dollars trying to make you forget. A chip is simply a sliced spud baked in good oil. It was always that simple, and it never required a chemical lab to taste incredible. When shopping in Australian supermarkets, keep these simple rules in mind. First, inspect the front of the packaging. If it claims Super Crunch, pub style, or beer batter, flip it over. Look for hidden batters such as rice flour, wheat starch, or dextrin listed right after the potato content. Second, check the oil source. If it simply states vegetable oil instead of specifying pure canola or sunflower oil, it often hides palm oil high in saturated fat. Third, examine the serving size listed on the nutrition panel. If the calories and fat figures are based on a 100-gram portion, double those numbers to reflect a realistic 200-gram home dinner serving. Fourth, check the origin label. Prioritize products carrying the Australian-grown logo over imported frozen spuds shipped across the ocean. Finally, if you buy novelty shapes like smiles or waffles, ensure they are made from direct-cut spuds rather than reconstituted potato flakes glued together with industrial gums. Woolworths. The frozen chip aisle is designed around clever marketing, processing shortcuts, and starch-based batters that turn cheap spuds into high-margin products. You do not need to settle for heavily engineered chips. By making informed choices, you can easily select clean options that stick to real spuds, quality oil, and honest value. Thank you for watching. If this investigation helped you see the supermarket freezer aisle in a new light, share this video with a friend who always buys pub-style chips. Drop a comment below and tell me, which chip brand is sitting in your freezer right now? Subscribe to keep uncovering the truth behind everyday supermarket foods. Choose products with nothing to hide, support local growers, and never settle for anything less than real food on your plate.